What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video here on mods and fixes. And today we are going to do another fix. So as you can tell, I got the front wheels off of these two vans today. These are a 2019 and a 2020 Ford Transit 250s. These are both rear wheel drive. And what I'm doing today is I'm doing the front rotors and pads on both vans. On one of the vans I might have to do the rear, but for now I'm going to do the front, and then I'll inspect the rear later. And if I do have to do the rears, then I'll include it in this video. Might as well. But just so you know, when you got the four-wheel drive and the two-wheel drive, the brakes are done differently, and the tools that you need are a little different. So I already began by taking the wheels off on all front wheels. And for the two-wheel drive, you'll be using your 13/16 socket to remove the lug nuts. And then I began removing the brake calipers. And luckily on these vans, when it's a two-wheel drive, there's a spot right there where you can just set the caliper on without having to get a bungee cord or a zip tie and hanging it anywhere. It'll sit perfectly on the bottom control arm. So what you need for the caliper is a 15mm socket. I would recommend using the 3/8 drive because the ratchet head is smaller, because on the passenger side, actually on both sides, the brake cable is in the way when you remove the top bolt for the brake caliper. So you remove both 15mm bolts, and you might want to use pliers, or not pliers, channel locks, or a small thin head adjustable wrench to put on these things right here, because they do spin, and if they spin, the bolt will knock them out. So you'll need to use pliers or channel locks to hold this in place while you ratchet off the 15mm bolt. So I already did it to this van. I'm gonna do it to the other van real quick, and then the next thing would be is to remove the brake caliper bracket. And for the bracket, I believe it's a 21mm, but I will confirm that here shortly. So let me take off the other calipers and we'll be right back. So for the job, you're going to need the following tools to complete the job depending on the vehicle that you have. Because I have two different vehicles, I'm going to show you the tools that I'm using. So you're going to need some Loctite. You're going to need some anti-seize, parts cleaner, rotor brake cleaner. Optional is an impact. Maybe don't use it. Pliers, or channel locks, or even adjustable crescent wrench will do. A C-clamp or a brake caliper tool, along with a piece of metal to compress the piston with the C-clamp. A hammer, just in case it's a pain to remove the rotor and hub from the spindle. A flathead screwdriver. You're going to need a 1/2" breaker bar, a 3/8 drive breaker bar, 3/8 ratchet, 1/2" ratchet, 3/8 and a 1/2" torque wrench, depending on your sockets that you have. I would recommend having a 3/8 extension, about 5 or 6 inches. You're going to need a T50. I would recommend a 3 or 4 inch extension. You're going to need 13/16 deep socket. You're going to need a 12mm, 13mm, and 15mm short socket. Whatever drive you have, 3/8 or half will work. So that is all you need to do this job. And obviously the jack and jack stands, obviously. let's get to it. Okay, while I was taking off the last caliper on the driver's side of the 2020 Transit 250, I came across this tube that was kind of running through a clip on the driver's side caliper. At first, because it was just wobbling in there, I thought it was some kind of vent tube, but then at the same time I thought, why would there be a vent tube right there? So when I looked at it closer, there's wires, two wires coming out of it. So I did some research. This part was mounted to the old brake caliper right there in that little slot. I don't know if you can see, but there's like two little, you see how it kind of looks like a head right there? Well, you would put this clip in there, and then this right in there, and it's your brake pad wear indicator. So I did some research. Apparently, once this tells the computer on the van that you have 1 millimeter left of your brake pad, apparently this has to be swapped out. You can't just replace the pads. If yours is okay, just put the pads in and get going. Apparently it won't reset unless you put a brand new brake pad wear indicator in the vehicle, which is, I think, kind of dumb if yours is in good condition. But this wasn't even connected anymore, so I'm assuming once the brake pads reach the 1 millimeter surface left, this starts scraping up against the rotor, and that's what you hear. And apparently if you drive with it long enough, it'll just heat it up way too much and it'll make it break off. So maybe that's why we're told to replace it. I don't know, but I would assume if yours is in good condition, still intact, I would try putting it in again and see what it does. If not, it's a $12.99 part at AutoZone. So before I put everything back together on the 2020 van, I got to go to AutoZone and get that. The 2019 doesn't have that option. It's not that fancy, but they're really close in trim. So yeah, that's the only difference on the 2020 van. It just has the brake wear indicator, which the van will tell you that your pads are low. So all 4 calipers are off, and I'll be right back to tell you to confirm the size socket for the brake calipers. Okay, I just finished loosening up all of the brake caliper bolts on both vans. I don't have the 21 millimeter socket, which is what the size of the bolt is, but equivalent to it is 13/16. It's really snug and it fits on there perfectly. So I mean, from what I've heard, everything on these Fords is pretty much metric, not so much standard size bolt heads, but that worked out perfectly. And what I would recommend is using a breaker bar with a 1/2-inch drive 13/16 socket. And then I do recommend putting the key in the ignition, turn it on. Don't turn the vehicle on, but just do the on position and turn the steering wheel so you can pry the bolts loose, so you can turn the hubs, to give you room to take those off. So now that I'm about to take all of the brackets off, the next thing to do is to remove the 5T50 Torx bits, which we would be removing the entire hub from the spindle just to remove the rotor, which I think is kind of a dumb design, but is it safer? Who knows? So yeah, we have to remove the hub. So this is a 5-year-old van right now. The other one's 4 years old. So if for any reason your hubs are wobbly when they shouldn't be, mainly you want to wobble the top and the bottom. You don't want to wobble from the sides because that's how it steers. So as long as you don't feel any wobble or it doesn't sound terrible, this actually feels really good. Then you can just reuse your hub and put it all together. So let me remove the brackets. I'm gonna loosen up and remove the hubs. Loosen up all the hubs, I guess, right? And then we'll be right back. Okay, I got all of the brackets off. So now it's time to remove the bolts that's holding the entire hub onto the spindle. This is totally up to you, what I'm about to tell you. So before removing the calipers completely, if you wanted to, you can stick a screwdriver in it to wedge in here, right in here in the slots of the rotor, so you can loosen up these 5 bolts before completely removing the hub. But if you have because we're replacing the rotors, I can just put this on the vise and, you know, loosen up these 5 bolts right here. It'll remove the rotor from the hub itself. Or if you feel comfortable, take the whole hub off first and then take your impact. Whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you. But what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go ahead, take the entire thing off first, and then I'll worry about these 5 bolts, which I'll confirm that size here shortly. So I went to Harbor Freight because they were the only place in town that had these long Torx bits set. I'm going to assume this is like 1.5 inch, 2 inch long bit right here. So what you have to do is spin the hub till you can get your the bit in there properly, and then once you got it in there properly and sitting in there as far as it can, take your ratchet, your 1/2 inch drive ratchet, and start spinning it. And then if you wanted to, go with the impact and then take them out the rest of the way. I would highly recommend, because it's a Torx head bit, use a ratchet first to break them, because last thing you want is that impact to just strip the head, and that is going to be a pain in the ass to remove them, because this is all the room in these holes you got to remove those bolts. So you have to spin the hub to be able to find the 5 bolts mounted to the spindle and loosen them up, and then you can take the impact and take them all the way out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now with the T50, and we'll be right back as soon as I got all the hubs off. All right, I got all of the hubs disconnected from the rotors. So on the 2020 Transit 250, the 5 bolts holding the hub and the rotor together are 12 millimeter on the 2020. Now on the 2019, the 5 bolts on the hubs to the rotor are 13 millimeter. So far that has been the only difference from doing the brakes on these 2 vans. They're identical vans, just different year, 1 year apart, but the bolt heads are different from the hub to the rotor. So on the 2019, the hubs came off pretty easy. I didn't have to tap it with a hammer or anything like that. I did mark the hub so I know which one's the driver, which one's the passenger, because I want to put them on the same side again. And I made sure I did the 2019 van separate from the 2020, so I don't mix any of the bolts or the hubs together or anything like that. So now what I need to do is go ahead, go to AutoZone, grab that brake pad wear indicator for the 2020 250 Transit, and I noticed that I don't have any brake cleaner fluid here, so I'm also going to pick up a can of that so I can clean the rotors before they get put on completely. And before I start doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out all of these slider pins on the brake caliper brackets. They slide in pretty easily and out. This one's a little hard. So what I'm gonna do is pull these out. All they do is just come right out. You might have to pry the rubber boot off of something right here, because this rubber boot sticks on a lip sometimes, depending on the vehicle. But yeah, it's on the lip. So all you do is take a flathead screwdriver. Don't rip the boot, but just kind of pry the boot off the lip that it's stuck on, and the whole pin slides out. Inspect the pin if you have to. Get some sandpaper, clean the pin, and then clean it completely, sand it, and put a little bit of grease on it, just a little bit, not too much, because you don't want it to pour out of here. And put it back together, seat the boot back on that lip that it's stuck on, and that's all you got to do. So I would highly recommend you do that before you put the brake pads and everything back together, because if these two go bad, if one starts getting stuck, then you're gonna have uneven pad wear on your new pads. From what I was looking on these brakes on both fans, I've been noticing that the inner pad on the driver's side is the one that's very low versus all the other pads on the front. They've been fine, they look okay, but they got to be replaced anyways. So, but yeah, which I find weird. Only the pad on the driver's side, but the inner pad is the one that gets the most wear, and that is the pad that on the 2020 van that the pad wear indicator was mounted on, the one on the inside. So maybe Ford knew that pad was going to go bad first, or I don't know, maybe they designed it that way. I don't know. I don't like Fords. So let me go to the AutoZone real quick, get the spray and the that wear sensor, and I'll be right back to start putting everything back together. So like I said, I'm just gonna go ahead, take care of the pins, pull them out, clean them, grease them up a little bit, put them back in. Nothing hard, that's super simple. And then I'm gonna start putting everything back together, just in reverse. Nothing special, just put it back in reverse. But yeah, but on the 2020 van, I did have to kind of slam the hub, you know, just the way it is on the ground, and it made the rotors drop right down. So yeah, just like that. So all right, I'm gonna go to the store real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so I still haven't gone to the store, but real quick, let's see. So the rotors on the 2019, I got them onto the hubs. The bolts are snug to the rotor, so once I get the hubs, this assembly right here back onto the spindles, then I'll go ahead and torque them up to spec. And then I was doing the rotors for the 2020 van, and remember what I was saying, that these two vans are identical. Well, they're not very identical. So it turns out the 20 van versus the 2019 van, they have different wheel lug specs. The one on the 2020 is a 115.8 millimeter lug bolt pattern, and on the 2019 it's a 111.5 millimeter lug bolt pattern. So, which kind of explains to why the bolt heads to mount the rotors to the hubs are different from the two. And then because the hubs from the 2020 won't fit on these hubs, when I went on to AutoZone.com, I typed in the VIN number so I don't get the wrong part. And then when I picked up both parts, the rotors were the same part numbers. So I said, okay, cool, like for like, right? So I put the hub on here onto the new rotors, and they do not fit. The holes don't align with the holes on the rotor. So that confirms a different lug bolt pattern. So I'm gonna have to go back to AutoZone, return these rotors. AutoZone doesn't have the other rotors that I need, so I need to go to Napa Auto Parts in town. Luckily, that's just a few minutes away, and they do have it in stock, luckily. So I'm gonna go to AutoZone, buy the pad wear indicator, return these, and then run over to Napa, get the correct rotors, and then I'll be back to finish up the vans and start putting them together finally. So luckily I didn't leave yet, because I'm also working on that van. It has an evap issue, so what I've been doing is letting it run, and then let it get warmed up completely, turn it off. I want to see if the check engine light turns back on, because I replaced the purge valve on it. So I wanted to warm it up before I left so it can cool down by the time I come back, so I can let it warm up again. So luckily I did that, and then I did this while that was warming up. So good thing I did that, because I wanted to go ahead and prep it and get these ready for when I come back, put them on. Obviously I can't do that now. So what I did do, oh man, these are kind of tight, which probably should have given me the first clue. So I put a little bit of anise. All I did was put little dabs on each side of the hole, one there, and then once I put the hub on, I spun it, and then it covers it completely perfect of where, you know, the hub is mounted to the rotor. So I need to clean both of these up so I can return them. So I'll see you right when I get back from the stores. Okay, I just came back from the stores, running around town. So that was a waste of 2 hours going to different stores. So normally I go to AutoZone only, because they mainly have everything I need to do the job. But online they did not. Online it showed 3 different types of rotors that go on these vehicles. So you just got to pay attention to that before you go to the store to get your rotors, because there's 2 different lug bolts patterns for the 5 lug, and then there's 2 different lug bolts also for the 6 lugs, which I'm assuming those are for like the 350s and the 4-wheel drives. So I had to pick up the severe duty rotors for the 2020 Transit 250, because the regular rotors, not the severe duties though, but you know, ones down from these, they were not available anywhere. I called I called O'Reilly's, I called Napa, nowhere to be found for this van unless I had to buy the severe duties, and they do fit. I started putting in the bolts. So the 13mm ones, I'm gonna go ahead, mount these on to the rotors now. I'm gonna go ahead, plug in the new little wear pad indicator sensor. It comes with a new clip, so I don't have to reuse the clip. Like I said, you just put it onto the brake pad in this little spot right here. Let's see. Just like that. You want to make sure that this part right here, the one that sticks out, is on the brake pad side, because that's part of the sensor. You know, once this starts getting rubbed on, once it removes the plastic and it shows the metal that's underneath there, it'll start telling the vehicle that your pads are low. So I'm gonna throw this one in there too, and start putting everything back together. Like I said, there's nothing special putting it back together. From what I have seen, is when you are putting the hub on and you're putting the Torx bits, the torque head bolts back in, make sure you put blue thread locker. I did also put blue thread locker here, as you can see. Bit of a mess because they've been there for a while now. Also use thread locker on the Torx heads. Do one at a time, and I would suggest using tape on your bit to get the bolt to stay on the socket bit, you can say, because if you drop that bolt in there, you're gonna have to take the whole hub off just to fish out one bolt that you dropped. So keep that in mind. I'll be right back, and I should have both of these vans put back together. So I'll let you know if I run into any issues, or if there's anything else besides what I just said, any other tricks that I can come up with to help you put this together. So be right back. All right. I got all of the T50 Torx bits tightened and torqued to spec, you can say. They are torqued down to 39 foot-pounds. That's pretty much it. When I was taking them off, they were breaking very easily, so that makes sense that they are not torqued down so much. So, and they all have blue thread locker on them. So both vans, that step is done. What I did, just so I didn't have to use tape on every single bolt or anything like that, since my bit is pretty much brand new, it fits snug in the T50 head, so I was able to hold it still until I hit the hole and then start threading it in by hand. And then so I would go as far as I could by hand, and then I would use the ratchet, and I would go as a star pattern, the same way that you would tighten up lug nuts. Do it in a star pattern, and then, you know, tighten up with the ratchet, and then get them snug with the ratchet, and then use a torque wrench at 39 foot-pounds, and same deal at star pattern. And that's pretty much it on that part. So I got all of the rotors cleaned up with degreaser cleaner, brake rotor cleaner, whatever you want to call it, spray. So now I'm working on the caliper brackets. So this one I already did. I took it out. I took a little piece of sandpaper or emery cloth, whatever you want to call it. Sand or clean the pen real quick. You can either put anti-seize or high temperature grease on the pen and slide it back in. As long as it goes in and out very easy, you are good. It's dirty, so yeah, as long as it slides in easier than it did before, you should be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that to all 4 brackets, put them on, put some blue thread locker on the 2 big bolts, tighten them on, and then I'll be close to being able to torque down the rotor to the hub on those right there. So let me work on these caliper brackets real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have all of the caliper brackets on. I got the new clips on as well, with a dab or a pea size brake grease right there. That's the only spot where you want to put grease. You don't want to put grease behind the pads or anything like that, because behind every pad it's like a little, how do I explain it? I don't know what that is. It's not metal. It's weird. It's not metal. This backing right here, this is supposed to prevent vibration or noise, actually. So when you hear noise after you're done doing your brakes, it's because you didn't put enough grease on these clips, on all 4 clips, or all 8 clips of each vehicle, whatever, however clips you're working with. Let's put it that way. So I'm gonna go ahead, slap on the new brake pads on each one, and it's super simple. It comes off just like you took them off. Before you do the pads, go ahead, it wouldn't hurt to do another quick clean of the rotor. As you can see, it got a little dirty putting the brackets back on. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean them real quick. I'm gonna slap on the new pads on both vans, and I think I'm just gonna go ahead, slap on the calipers, and then we'll come back to tightening up these 5 bolts. So let me get that done, and we'll be right back. Alright, I'm working on the last caliper right now. Like I was telling you guys earlier, the new wear pad sensor, it literally just clips straight on. You want to put it in straight in like that, from up above, from the top of the caliper straight in. You don't want to put it in from the side, like pushing on. You want to push straight up, straight in from the top of the pad, straight in, not like this, like that. So that's in there right now. It has to go on the inner pad only, and then once I get the caliper on, it's gonna, the cable, it goes through a little loop to keep it out away from the wheel, and then it gets clipped right here. There's a clip right there, another connection. So I went ahead, compressed all of the pistons on the calipers, and all I used the old school method, is because the front ones on these have 2 pistons, I used a piece of metal. As you can see the cups right there, the pistons, the brake pistons. Put this up against the pistons, and then I would use it just like that with the C-clamp. This on the back of the caliper, this on the front, pushing on the pistons just like that. So I just got one more to go, and then I can officially torque down those 5 bolts that I've been telling you about for a while now. I could have done it before putting the calipers on, but I could have done it with just the brackets, the caliper brackets, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do it with everything on. So let me compress that one other side, and then I'll be ready to torque down those 5 hex nuts from the rotor to the hub. Okay, so all calipers are on completely, and this is what I wanted to show you about that one little the brake pad indicator sensor, so it's right there. You can just slip right on from up above. You can even pull on it to take it out or replace it if you need be. And then the bleeder valve has this little rubber boot on it, and then that's where you put the cable through, and it connects right there. This one right there, because there's two connectors right here, and it goes in the bottom one. So, and it just held in by one clip. Hold down on that clip and it pulls right out. So that's it on that. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start tightening these down completely and torquing them. Oh man, got really dusty. I'm gonna put a screwdriver in here, well, at the bottom part actually, and then I'm gonna torque them. I'm gonna torque, not twerk them. So they're all ready, and those ones I will be torquing them down to 22 to 23 foot-pounds each one. It goes the same for both vans, even though the heads are different sizes. It's the same thing, 22 foot-pounds. And then same thing, you want to do a star pattern, just like you're doing your wheels, like the lug pattern. You want to do it in a star pattern. And that's about it. And then the wheels go on, and that's it. So let me go ahead and get all those done. But what I was talking about, like for example, this side, I'll be able to just slip a screwdriver right there off the top. On the driver's side, I got to put it on the bottom, but I have to get a longer screwdriver for the other side. So let me go ahead, torque them down, and I'll be torquing them down twice. So after it clicks once, you go to your next one, you restart at the first one, click, make it click, and then you do it, you go around one more time, and that's it. All right, be right back. So that is it right there. We got all the front brakes done on these two vans, 2019 and 2020 Ford Transits 250 with the 3.5 liter motor. Yeah, like in the video, everything was pretty much the same besides the hub bolts that go to the rotor. You know, one's 12, one's 13. So that's the only difference between them. I don't know if it's the difference between different motors that Ford probably puts in these. I'm not a Ford guy, so I don't know what else they put in them. But if I had to rate the job on doing the brakes on these, I would say it's a 9.5 out of 10, meaning easy. So anybody can really get underneath these and do the brakes in the front, obviously. But if you are doing a four-wheel drive transit van like these, then the skill level drops to, I think, like a 6.10, 6 out of 10 of being able to do it, because you gotta remove the axle nut and yeah. So and then tools are different for the four-wheel drives. So hopefully you guys understood what I did, understood my explanations of things. If you guys liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. I'm not really trying to blow this channel up or anything like that. I'm just sharing my knowledge and my experience with whatever I'm doing. If I have time to record, I don't always have time, so yeah, I'll try to share as much as I can. All right, until next time, peace.